Good morning, Judge Cobb, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is Roark, 1804A Hunter Road, and apologize for not changing. I'm taking a little bit of time off from work, and if that tells you that's how important this is for me. Normally, I'm not able to come down here, but I felt it was important for me to come speak to you all personally. I've spoken with my commissioner on some of these issues, but I'm going to be very clear right at the beginning, and then I'm going to go into the details in my 3 minutes. Judge Cobb, I'm requesting, I'm also recommending, but it's a request. I would like to have the County Elections Committee called for one reason and one purpose, to appoint an independent auditor to go and to review procedures and policies. Commissioners Court, I'm asking for you to authorize emergency funding to go on ahead and fund for that auditor. Let me give you a little background. This is what I do, folks. I have been in quality and manufacturing for going on 20 to 30 years. I'm right in the middle right now of working on material that is going for Westinghouse into nuclear power plants. Everything has to be dotted, T's crossed, I's, you name it. If anything goes wrong, which we know things go wrong, processes are made that way, we're all human. But I have to fill out what's called a non-conformance report. It's called an NCR. Basically, that goes on file. Anyone can come in to look at that and to find out what happened with the process. What did we or my suppliers do to fix that? It's something very simple. It's not looking at someone and saying, oh, you were horrible or did anything wrong. That's part of what we call ISO. Many companies are ISO 1200, 1400. You'll see all sorts of certifications. Bottom line, you have policies and procedures that you follow. Obviously, there were some things that weren't followed. My major concerns that I have raised with my commissioner is that we had a recount for a local election here in San Marcos. I want to know why we did not find that missing ballot box at that time. Okay? That should have been simple right there. If somebody pays to have a recount, even if that box wasn't counted or wasn't part of that election for the runoff election, it should have been determined at that time. Something simple. I'm not saying anybody's at fault. There's nothing nefarious. I'm not asking for a total revamp of the system. But we just finished up with Martin Luther King holiday. You know, I know of Hispanics that came back from the war that marched here in the county for their right to vote. I'm hearing all sorts of rumblings from people that are questioning their vote. It is paramount as the governing authority that the integrity of the elections and the integrity of that vote is maintained. So I'm asking, Judge, for you to please call that, because you have to do that. It's not the court. You have to call that commission and to publicly let us know when that is going to be and give us time, and for court for you to fund that. Thank you very much for your time today.
Good morning, Judge Cobb. Thank you all, Commissioners Court. Well, just like Ocker is, you know my name is pronounced Oker. Thank you very much. So anyway, I got a little more sarcasm for you. Last week you admonished those of us that did not attend the February 20th meeting, the meeting which, by the way, was held in a government building after the county said that all government offices would be closed that day. So I went back and I looked at the agenda of that meeting. I don't know what it would have mattered for me to be there anyway, because there was no agenda item there for citizen communication or for there to be a hearing. So I think that's an admission that maybe you didn't think the minutes of that meeting would be accurate, since my attendance at that meeting somehow I would have missed something. But moving on, about the way this county gave notice to that meeting, you know, Judge, you're right. I should have known about it. I should be scouring the county website daily. I should know about every single meeting that occurs in this county. And I'm ashamed that I let my fellow citizens down by not knowing about that. And you know what? Since I know you're a fair man, which is why you wear that black robe and you have the title judge, I want you to treat every citizen of this county equally. And what I propose from now on is, when a county employee is reaching a milestone of 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, whatever commendation in this county, show them the same amount of due diligence you did me in giving me a appraisal of that meeting. Let's don't tell them about it. None of the county employees need to be told by their commissioners or their bosses that they're going to be commended in commissioner's court. Let's just put it on the agenda and see if they show up. I hope you see how absurd that sounds. Now, what I've been asking for, and I certainly hope you don't think last week suffices, because Ms. Anderson coming up here and not being subject to cross-examination, quite frankly, none of y'all asking pointed questions or even caring enough to understand the issues that are present, is not going to salve this wound. We need to have a public hearing where if y'all don't want to ask the tough questions, allow the members of the public that will ask the tough questions to do so. Y'all can hold a joint meeting right here. Nothing would prevent that. Matter of fact, most of the people that are on that elections board are typically here in Commissioner's Court anyway. So y'all can hold a joint meeting. We can have it right here with the cameras on. That way there's an indelible public record, and we can ferret all these problems out. That's what I've been asking for. That's why I'm here for my 7th week in a row. But something as simple as, like Mr. Roark alluded to, quality control. According to what I've been told, we do not even have a process by which to go back and audit what ballot style people were given. We know what ballot style they were assigned from the Elections Administration, but when someone comes in and votes a ballot that has been handed to them incorrectly, we don't even have a way to track that. And I don't understand why that process would be in place in the computer age. If someone is given an improper ballot, by the way, I'm getting messages quite frequently now about more people coming forth getting improper ballots. Why on earth can't we go back and audit that and see, hey, Joe Smith, you live in 221, but you got a ballot for 228. I don't think that's too much to ask. And if I have to be the one to ask the questions, at least provide the forum so I can do it. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. I don't really enjoy being admonished walking out the door either, like you did last week, Judge. You know, I know some of the people in this room right now are getting paid to be here. Others of us are giving up pay to be here. And if I have to leave and I choose to watch Jennifer Anderson make her presentation on video, I shouldn't have to hear about it on my way out the door and make a decision and come back whether I address that with you then or now. So I don't appreciate that. You talk about honor in your prayer. I'd like to see a little bit of it take place in this court. We weren't asking for a presentation. We were asking for a public hearing where we can cross-examine the statements made. We've been asking for a public hearing. We've been asking for an investigation report. Jennifer Anderson, I'm told, has performed an investigation. We haven't seen a report of that, and I don't believe any of you have either. And if you have, let me know, because I'm really interested to know what that is. Without an investigation report, as far as I know, there is no investigation that has taken place. One more thing we'd like to ask for is, my understanding is that we're looking at some new voting machines, making a purchase for it, and you claim that you don't have responsibility over the elections office. Well, you do provide the budget on that. And I would suggest, recommend, that the Commissioner's Court assign a citizens panel to take place in that decision making. And you've got a lot of people that you can choose from. You can cherry pick it. You can put convicted felons on there like you do on some other committees, or you can put concerned citizens like Matt, like I, that have been down here for 7 weeks now trying to get our questions answered on how we go about, you know, losing 1,800 votes on election day, and that's that we currently know of. And by the way, Matt was exactly correct. We're hearing real time every day more people saying they were handed ballots that they should not have been handed. And if you don't know that, you know, I came in here, I guess it was 4 or 5 weeks ago, 2 weeks in a row, and made the claim, made the statement, the assertion that Hays County is not following state law on how we administer the elections. I'm told that county employees are saying we do. If we're all under oath, you should be prosecuting one of us for perjury. Or you could do as I asked before, pick up the phone and call me. There's not one of you that can't find my phone number with one phone call. Most of you have it in your phone already. And I haven't heard from any of you. I really doubt your sincerity. So I'm going to read you an email that came into my box yesterday. It was actually a news report. And it was in Travis County, there's requests for information made on all emails between the county elections office and between the Secretary of State and between Hart InterCivic. Travis County didn't want to respond to that, so they asked for an Attorney General response. Ken Paxton said, no, that's public information, you have to release it. Travis County didn't want to release any of those, so they filed suit in district court citing the Homeland Security Act, and their claim was the release of such information will seriously compromise the security of the voting equipment and software and could potentially jeopardize any election. If that doesn't send chills up your spine, then you're not paying attention. Thank you very much.
I'd like to say one fact, speaking about being admonished. Mr. Brandon made a comment some meetings ago about seeing me in town and not being in court, and he is right. I was in town, but there's more information. I had a personal emergency in which I had to go back home, and that's why I was late coming back to court. So I my colleagues in our department for that and got back as soon as possible.
May I respond to that?
No, you may not. Sit down. Let's have Mr. Dan Lyon. Good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
I didn't say that for you.
I think so. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dan Lyon, and I live in Hays County, Texas. As I am a Texan from birth, I have a set of values which some would say are conservative. I just call them normal. Like Thomas Jefferson, I believe that the government that governs best governs least. Every dollar that government spends is a dollar taken from someone with the threat of confiscation of that person's property. If I were to do that to someone, I would be justly arrested for extortion. While America's founding fathers would not recognize this as legitimate government, Karl Marx would rightly recognize it as socialism. What do we get for quote, voluntarily, unquote, surrendering our rights in property? We get 3 minutes and a vote. Now we are not even sure that our votes count. A famous man once said that he cared not who voted. All that mattered to him was who counted the votes. Who was this man? Was it George Washington, John Adams, perhaps John Kennedy? No, it was the communist dictator Joseph Stalin. In other words, without properly counted votes, we are no better off than the people in Soviet Russia. We need a real question and answer session. Not that, in my opinion, bait and switch dog and pony show that we had here last Tuesday. If we can't come up with the correct answers, we can always get the Secretary of State's office involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is Lisa Marie Copoletta.
Hi, it's Copoletta. Hi, I'm Lisa Marie Copoletta. I live at 1322 Belvin, and I love that use of the alliteration cast until counted. And I would like to resonate and ask that you also abide by the recommendations given by Mr. Brannon as well as Mr. Roark. They're very thoughtful, they're proactive, and I think they would alleviate some of the concerns. As a candidate, I was not contacted. Mr. Montgomery was not contacted. None of us were contacted by the Hays County Elections Administrator. I've been running for 30 years in this community, and I will never vote again until this is resolved. In fact, I will be filing an open records request this week to examine every single solitary mail-in ballot because of the irregularities that have been reported to me. Time and again when I've run for city council since the early 80s, well, since we've had the electronic ballot system, I've been advised by candidate after candidate and voter after voter for me that those ballots oftentimes don't hit a city race. So people go in to vote for a city race and they never get to that part of the ballot ballot. We've told Joyce that for years and years. Joyce is great at making Joyce look good, and I've been dealing with her for 30 years. It took her a month to get me a voters list. I reported the fact to her that there was literature from John Tomides in the election's main voting area, out in plain view. And not one of those election judges thought to fix that and remove that until I called. Time and time again, I was getting reports about machines going down and election judges casting votes for candidates. I let it all go. I'm not a poor loser. But when I start getting emails and through the media, and you guys can't contact me about voter irregularities, that's shocking. And I once again would reiterate what Mr. Roark and what Sam Brandon did. Additionally, she handpicked her election judges, which meant that certain favorites in town got paid to be election judges, and a lot of them were highly incompetent, because I was election judge, hello, and observed that behavior. Additionally, let's see, do I have anything else to say? I think I've already hit everything. And actually the way you run this court is very surprising to me. You let some people speak over time, and then with Mr. Brandon, you let that alarm go on. And I think the way that you conduct this court is reflective of what's going on in the underbelly of this county. And I would challenge you to do the right thing if you're with the God Squad and take a look at what's going on with the election and reassure us who took the time and spent the money and reached out to voters and spent all that time writing up those, answers that we do to the questionnaires to reassure us that those votes were there and people cast and they counted it. And at this time, the way you guys are running this, it's flippant, it's arrogant, and it's very unfortunate. God bless San Marcos.
Okay, I have Sharon Michaelis.
Good morning, Sharon Michaelis, and I live at, this is important, I live at 3600 West FM 150. And you'll find out why in a second, Judge Cobb. I actually spoke with Jennifer, I started to say Aniston. Jennifer Anderson yesterday. I popped into her office and she very graciously met with me. I also met with her assistant, one of her assistants there in the office, and I asked about the meeting, the public meeting that was held on a federal holiday, and she said that she was telling me about how a new voting system, that there are several different companies that have voting systems that incorporate possibly a written ballot along with the electronic ballot. I said, that's very commendable. She also said that possibly you are considering allowing voting in any precinct. The voter can go to any precinct to vote on Election Day. I think that would be very convenient for most voters in the county. I then was asking her about the voting irregularity that occurred in Precinct 225 with the anthem, the anthem votes and the Meisenheimers. I live right next door to that. And she said, I said, has that all been resolved? And she said, yes, all of it's been resolved. No one questioned anything. The Meisenheimers didn't ask to see the voting logs, the sign-in sheets, nothing was requested, and that had all been resolved. I then asked her about poll workers. I know most of what I think I'm supposed to know, but I went ahead and asked her anyway. Since she's the new administrator, I asked about, is that better?
That's better.
Okay. I asked who they were and how they were selected, in particular the judges for the day. And she said that the election judges were selected by the chairman of the ruling party at the time, and that is now, I guess, Russell Hayter of the Republican Party, Hayter, excuse me. And he selects the precinct judges. I then mentioned something about, how about us independent people? You think maybe we could have, well, that could probably have to go through the state or your legislature or something like that. And I said, okay, I dropped that subject. I then asked her who was in charge of transporting the boxes, the technical, the electronic stuff, and also those voter sign-in logs. Who was responsible? And she said the election judges were responsible for that. I think that's correct. I then told her about a couple of problems. No, can't be. Am I done? I was handed a wrong ballot. So, and I audibly, while voting, hey y'all, I'm not supposed to get this ballot. I don't vote for City of Kyle elections. And I was told I must be wrong. I said, well, unless I fell asleep and somebody moved my body into Kyle, I do not vote in city elections. And I questioned that, and so I have more to say, but unless somebody yields to me, thank you.
Okay, Cristin, are you here?
Morning. Judge, Commissioners, I'm Cristin Hearn. I live in northeastern Hays County, and before I left the workforce to stay home with my 3 kids, I was a financial analyst for a large international corporation. So I am aware of control and audit procedures. I have followed the Anthem case. I have followed the varying statements made by Ms. Anderson to multiple media outlets here in Hays and Travis County, and I did watch her presentation via live stream last week. I am even more concerned after that presentation and the following commentary from the commissioners and the judge. We have some serious issues with our voting. There are some serious deficiencies in the audit and quality control process. We have a ballot box that was missing, and that could have been discovered had a simple audit reconciliation been performed between the number of ballots cast and the canvas ballots. That was not done either. And when Ms. Anderson was asked what her solutions were to these problems, it was a manual login sheet and a locked cabinet. If that is where we are in Hays County election process, we are in serious trouble. I also heard excuses for human error and how many ballots we have. Again, I don't know how we can go to voting in any precinct if voting in our own precinct right now, we can't be guaranteed we get the correct ballot. We have some serious issues with elections in Hays County, and the court has stated that their goal is transparency. Until we have an open meeting with a formal audit presentation and input from residents, we are not going to get the answers that we deserve. How many missing ballot boxes are acceptable? How many uncounted votes are acceptable? How many miscounted votes are acceptable? How many incorrect ballots handed out on election day are acceptable? We need answers to those questions. I would like to thank Commissioner Inglesby. She actually asked a very relevant question. Why can't we publish the results of the 1,800 votes? And just like I've heard from this court many times, the answer was it's too complicated. It's not too complicated. Transparency is not complicated. We need to see the results of those ballots on the website. She asked that, and that was the answer, Commissioner Wisenhout, so I'd appreciate not another eye roll, please. I am speaking professionally and politely. I expect the same from you. So we need to get to the bottom of this, and we have some serious issues with Ms. Anderson's department. Hopefully she's up to the task, but after the little we do know about the election, I am not so sure. Other voters have concerns, and we are justified in our concerns. We are also justified in expecting county employees that are paid for with our tax dollars to do a high standard of work. Thank you.